Yes, sir. We are back. The Hurdle here on the South Harmon Fantasy Football channel. I am Cody Carpentier with my main man, Matty Kiwoom.
What up?
K-I-W-Woom. I love the Woom every single week, baby.
Boom!
Both got our fair share of hours in today behind the wheel.
Yeah.
And we even got in an hour early. We got in an hour early tonight, back to the OG time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. So for those of you that don't catch us until 8 p.m., when you're like, whoa, where'd the guys go? They're already done. We're sorry. We appreciate you. We love you. You know this.
Mm-hmm.
Thanksgiving week, we're thankful for you, like we tell you every single week. But Matty, we're here to talk about the hurdle. We're here to talk about what happened in week 12. A couple of interesting things happened in the NFL. A shit ton of interesting things happened in college football. But first and foremost, how you doing and how's the family going into Thanksgiving?
Oh, we're very, very excited for Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving's a great day. Food, family, football. What's not to love? The games, wish they were a little bit better. If the Bears were just a little bit better, I'd be a little more excited about that game. If, there was a quarterback even going to be playing in the middle game, that would be great. But anyway, I'm very excited. Like you said, it's been a long day in the car, so I might rant a lot today. Might be a little bit off the wall, might be a little scatterbrain, but we're going to dial it in. We're going to talk hurdle ratings, and then we're going to do a little pick 'em where we're going to pit two players against each other, and Cody and I are going to pick who we'd rather have in Dynasty.
Okay, you just said a little off the wall. Brain might be a little tizzy. I'm just going to say this, and like you see me looking away from the screen for just a split second because, as you can tell, I'm not in my digs. I'm literally, in an embassy right now in the middle of Kentucky. And off the wall. Matty, question. When you order a steak, how do you order it?
Medium rare, usually.
Perfect. When you order a hamburger, how do you order it?
Well done.
Okay. I said, Tiger, go order me a cheeseburger. Him and Mom went downstairs. Go order me a cheeseburger. He goes, I ordered a medium rare. Hope you like it.
Oh God, it's gonna be wet. I don't like me wet burgers. I know I hate wet burgers. No.
I'm trying to see your text and go, no, done. I want it done. Yeah. He's like, did I change it? I'm like, yes, please.
Yeah, I don't want that soapy, soppy burger and bun. Give me, I want the continuity. I want all the stuff on the fixins.
Especially when he's gonna order it and then it's gonna be like an hour before I eat it. The thing's just gonna be soup. I'm just no. Anyway, so I know Tiger's not watching because he never does, but he's downstairs. I just texted him back. So Matty, let's jump into these hurdle ratings. A big week of, I guess you'd say, upsets. We had the Browns on Thursday Night Football last week. Beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, upset, right? Yes. Mm-hmm. Divisional game, yes. Now we're like 8 days removed from this now. Mike Tomlin's record on Thursday Night Football against divisional foes, I think, dropped to 0-7. I want to say it is now.
I think it's 0-7, yeah.
I think it's 0-7. The Steelers are 0-9 on Thursday Night Football against divisional foe, and they're overall, I think, like 2-9 on Thursday Night Football, period. I believe those are the stats. I haven't read them in like 8 days. I believe that's what they are now, but that fills into the Browns thing happening on Thursday night. Last week, we had the Panthers tie up with the Chiefs in the fourth quarter, 27-all. I mean, this is 10-point home dogs. That's the rule right there, 10-point home dogs. And the Panthers literally narrowly almost pull that thing out. The Titans upset the Houston Texans, 32-27. And Will Levis is all of a sudden, is he back? I mean, this is like his 11th career game. I mean, is he back? 18 for 24, 278. I don't know. We'll talk about it here in a minute when we talk about the hurdle ratings. We talk about Houston, but a bevy of upsets. But then you also have this one constant, Matty, the one constant, the dog walking from the Detroit Lions every single week. Let's start out the hurdle rating with the back end. Tier number 5, the frauds. Who are the frauds of the week? Let's see if I can pop the screen up. Will you pop there it is. The frauds of the week. Coming in at number 18 overall, the Atlanta Falcons. Just a notch ahead, 17, Washington Commanders or Redskins. I did see that there's potentially the Redskins logo coming back. Did you see this?
I did not, but I know that it's been like a quiet petition for DC fans that they want it back. They want the Redskins back.
I feel like we need it back. So You had Atlanta 18. I had Atlanta 17. You had Washington 17. I had them 16. Houston is the third team in the fraud tier. They come in at 14, or actually, technically, it's 16. 14 is our average here. So Houston in this tier with Atlanta, Washington, and Houston. Washington's taken a tumble just a few short weeks ago. So it would have been back to week 9. We had them all the way up into tier 2. Week 10, we had them in tier 2. Week 11, we dropped them down to the Pittsburgh, Minnesota, Green Bay tier, dropped them another spot. And then this week, we pretty much plummeted them down into this fraud tier because the book is, I mean, we were worried potentially about the book being out on Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Is it safe to say the book is out on Washington? I mean, that Pittsburgh game kind of did it. And I was like, well, I'm not quite sure. It was a good close game. They didn't dominate him. They took away the run game, but they didn't dominate him. I'm not sure. At Philly's a tough game, but then you come back home for Dallas and you drop that. That game was also just cockamamie at the end. But what do you think of Washington, and what do you think about these three teams? Because I think these are three very interesting teams that belong in this tier.
Atlanta, we talked about them last week being frauds. They obviously had a bye week, and the week was kind of wonky enough that they may have gone up in the ranks just by not playing. Not enough for me to move them up the hurdle ratings, though. Now, when we get into the next tier is when I'll tie in the Houston Texans, because I don't think that they are fraud. I don't think that they are ranked with these teams. I think they should be ranked higher than these teams, but they are frauds. They are not there. Their offensive line's bad. Their interior line was absolutely abused by the monstrosity defensive line of the Tennessee Titans. And I think what we're seeing, and we'll talk about him in depth later in the show, is C.J. Stroud, the magic that was C.J. Stroud in his rookie year, is starting to look a little bit, I'm not going to call it fugazi, but it's not as exciting as we once thought. And I think when you look at the numbers, including last year's numbers, you realize, he hasn't been as electric, I think, as we were touting him to be. And as for the Washington Commanders, the reason why they're frauds to me is you kind of look at the schedule here, and they could have 4 losses out of their last 5. If it wasn't for an insane Hail Mary, they should have 4 losses out of their last 5. They were outplayed over the last 3 weeks. And what makes me the most nervous is 2 things. 1, Pittsburgh is a tough matchup. I'll give them that. But Pittsburgh solved the problem. And the subsequent 2 teams have just gone back to that well, using that solution to stop this offense. And the second reason why I'm putting him in the fraud tiers, Cliff Kingsbury, second half Cliff. I mean, are we really going to do this again, where he just gets this rolling and then it falls off a hill? And now they're seeing running back injuries. Their offensive lines. Mic's not working. Take over, Cody, my mic. I got to unplug it real quick.
I was just going to say, I think I was about to comment. I was about to say something. I think I lost you there. What I was about to bring up before I exited out of everything on my end, because I thought it was coming from my end, was I had this conversation with Fizz. Shout out to Fizz $50. I appreciate you, brother. I love you. I appreciate you doing the cook up alone this morning as I was driving across the country. You're rocking it. You're killing it in all facets of the game. I'm thankful for you as well, brother. But we talked about this the last couple of weeks, the odds for Rookie of the Year and why it would shift if there was any falter in this thing. And it's not so much about Jaden or Washington and its own thing. It's more about Bo Nix. And we'll talk about Bo here in a second, but Jaden Daniels went from being a very, very large favorite. Maybe, I don't remember what the odds got up to, like, I can't remember if they were 5 or 700, minus 5 or 700 just a few weeks ago. He's now down to minus 175, minus 150, minus 200 at all books. DraftKings, BetMGM, ESPN, FanDuel, everything. Bo Nix on his just nipping at those heels, plus 100, plus 145, plus 160. One thing I do, as I was driving to Indiana today, did not do. I did not stop and make that bet. That's the one I should have done. I made a couple, That's the one I forgot to do, was the rookie of the year. Just laying a couple bucks on Bo Nix, because that's the thing is the way that the rest of that schedule lays out for the Washington Commanders, man. They could potentially lose 3 of the next was it 6 games? 4 of the next 6 games.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked at the current rate. And Bo Nix and the Broncos, holy heater right now. Like the Broncos are playing very good football, and that team could continue to just climb and win 10 or 11 games, make the playoffs. And I think that that's enough to get Bo Nix that rookie of the year. They're not even in the next tier, Matty. The next tier is the NFC West. The NFC West is just a mumbo jumbo jerk fest, as if you want to call it that. There's just literally it's a mess. And this week we had Seattle and Arizona play, and Seattle won. I think it shocked a lot of people. It was a pick 'em. A lot of people were picking Arizona in this one. San Fran, no Brock Purdy. They get just hammered by Green Bay. The Rams, I just don't know what the Rams are in any weekly difference. They played the Eagles well, but then Saquon just went nuclear.
Yep.
Like if not Saquon, that game's probably a different conversation, but that's the difference. They have Saquon. The Philadelphia Eagles have Saquon. You don't. You got Kyron Williams. Sorry. Puka played well. Cooper Kupp played well. The bigger take here is, first off, we talked about Atlanta before. Tampa Bay's up here ahead. Tampa Bay's actually got a worse record than Atlanta. 2 teams in the NFC South. This is the NFC West, entirely outside the top 10. It shows you how bad those other 2 divisions are on the NFC side of things. Today I couldn't tell you who's going to win the NFC West. It's just too inconsistent. These teams all beat the hell out of each other. It's kind of like they talk about the SEC, the top teams in the SEC all just beat the hell out of each other all year. And it's kind of hard to tell who's really the best, who's really the one that's going to be there at the end. I don't actually think the NFC West is the SEC. I think the NFC West is a lot closer to the Big 12 because it's not that great of football. But it is what it is. So Seattle comes in ahead of Arizona, or Arizona ahead of the Rams, and the Niners come in dead last in NFC West in tier number 4 for Matty and I. Matty, I still got my tickets on Arizona plus 1,300 plus 1,200 before the season in like July and April to win the division. I'm going to ride with Arizona, but Jackson Smith and Jigba is making me have second thoughts. Mike. Matty's got to plug his mic back in or unplug it, plug it back in. I don't know if he's got to drop or come back or what he's got to do, but we got to figure out this mic situation, and I'm just going to keep on talking until I hear his voice. So the thing with Jackson Smith and Jigba, I don't know. I think it's a big difference in this offense. As you've seen the consistency grow, Lockett's basically turned into a 0 for the Seattle side of things, which I think is good, because when you're watching the Seattle Seahawks play football and they win a game like this 16-6, and it's led on the backs of really in Jigba and DK Metcalf, it's kind of what you want to see. And I do think from a dynasty perspective, seeing Ken Walker, Matty, chime in here if you're here, but seeing Ken Walker pull in 6 targets and be kind of a more consistent, I think he's top 5 right now in targets at the position, maybe top 3 at the position. I like where Seattle's at. They're winning an ugly football game. But, man, do I love me some Jackson Smith and Jigba.
This offense, what it should dwindle down to, and it probably will, I think it's going to become a highlight JSN, go to him as much as possible, utilize the run game with both of their running backs in the passing game and up the middle, and then go deep to DK Metcalf. That's the way that this team is going to have success. When they get a little too out of frame and just let Geno sling, I think is when they find themselves in some issues. So as we see this offense kind of get honed in, first year offensive coordinator in the NFL, first year head coach, it's still got a mesh. DK's, only been back a couple games. I think that this is where they'll find success. I love Ken Walker, a JSN emerging as not only just the best wide receiver, but probably the best playmaker in this offense. Really shouldn't surprise many people. I know he was kind of forgotten about, but let's face it, he's in year 2? It should not have been that this much of a shock that such a dynamic player coming out of college would eventually get his footing. So as far as I'm concerned, tier 4 could be tier 4A, the NFC West, tier 4B, the NFC South. Those teams are going to jockey up from frauds up to instill in it. They're going to go down. They're going to go up. They're going to go down. They're going to battle it out. But I think what we're seeing here is, depending on who comes out of the NFC West, this is the division that I think can make a run. I don't know if either the Bucs nor the Falcons can make a run. The reason why these guys are in tier 4 is I think any one of these
Quarterback
four
play.
teams can go make a little bit of a run.
Yeah. I like the quarterback play. I think Stafford does have enough there. The weaponry, there's enough in LA. Arizona, I still think there's just like this twinkle with Kyler that I think is it's hit or miss. Like I like they lost last week. We've talked about it all year. We thought we had it figured out. This last 4-game stretch, they beat the Chargers by 2, the Dolphins by 1. Then they started scoring points and playing defense. They beat the Bears by 20 and the Jets by 25. And I was like, whoa, this team's going to start playing real football. This is going to be something to watch here down the stretch. And they come out of the bye and lay an egg. They got the Vikings in Minnesota this week. I like the spot for Arizona. I like the spot for Arizona to bounce back and get up to 7-5. Home against Seattle, indoors. Home against New England, indoors. At Carolina, East Coast outdoors. Should be fine weather. Should be a brisk 50 on that time when that game kicks off 3 days before Christmas. At Los Angeles Rams, indoors. Home against the Niners, indoors. Like, if they can get this thing honed in, they got a very peachy schedule rest of season from pretty much every angle outside of playing the Vikings this week, which I still think, like I said, is a pretty decent matchup. The Vikings are not dominant, despite them being able to pull these games out. They haven't played. They've been playing shitty. Let's just be honest. They've been playing shitty competition the last month. The Colts, Jags, Tennessee Titans, and Bears. It's going to not exactly get harder, but it's the Cardinals, Falcons, Bears the next couple of weeks. And I do think the Cardinals can nip them here at the opening of their 3-game home stretch for the Vikings. All right, let's go into tier 3. Still in it. Teams we still believe are in it. This is the interesting one, Matty. I don't know how Tampa still keeps hanging around here. I don't know how Tampa is still just, in like they're right here, right at 11. I don't get it. I don't get how Tampa for us, you kind of see me stumbling over my words. I don't.
This is what it is. They've taken the identity of their quarterback. Baker has his personality has trickled through this whole team. They play tough, and they have enough playmakers on both sides of the ball. And again, we preach this a ton on this show, and it's not the sexiest part of the game. But how important are the trenches? The Bucs are very good in the trenches. They got a good O-line, and they have Vita Vea. They're good in the trenches. That's going to keep – if you're good in the trenches, you will beat the bad teams and stay in the game against the good teams at the very least. That's what the recipe that's been successful for the Buccaneers this year. And then they come out now, and all of a sudden they have not 1, not 2, but 3 effective running backs. They have a good tight end. Mike Evans is back. It's just they don't need – to beat you and be flashy. They're going to beat the bad teams. And if they can come away with some victories against some of the tougher teams, they're going to stay in this tier. I have more faith. The reason why, to me, the Bucs are in this tier and not frauds, and the Falcons are in the fraud tier, because I don't think the Falcons will do the things against the bad teams to make sure they win those games. I have faith that Todd Bowles, Baker Mayfield, and the Bucs will beat the bad teams and upset a couple of the good teams.
I guess the point is first off, they lost to the Falcons twice, which I hate, but they lost to the Ravens by 10, the Chiefs by 6, the Niners by 3. 3 good teams. And then the Falcons, of course, are in their divisional team. They lost to them twice. They also lost to the Broncos, but they had that win against the Lions in Washington early that we can kind of write off the Washington early win. I don't really know how I feel about that. I mean, it was Jaden Daniels' first ever start. I don't know if that thing happens again today. I think that's actually a pretty good matchup today. The schedule rest of the season for Tampa, I think, is pretty favorable. Carolina, Raiders, Chargers, Cowboys, Panthers, Saints. Pretty favorable. They should win at least 4, maybe 5 of those games to put them at 9-7 or 10-6. Or wait, 9-8 or 10-7. God, that 18th game always gets me. The thing I guess my problem is with Tampa is like I think it's fine to have them still in it because I get it. I love Baker. I think with a healthy Mike Evans, healthy Cade Otton, with their offensive line, with their defense, predominantly their defensive line, I think that they're good enough to make and win a playoff game. But I still have Seattle ahead of them. And I still have Houston. Houston's, I think, the biggest discrepancy for us this week in any one of these ranks. It's Houston. You have it 16. I have them at 12. I have Houston one spot ahead of Tampa, and Stroud's came down to earth a bit, but I still just have this innate belief in Houston, And I don't know what it is. They win games they, should win, games they shouldn't win. They lose games they should win. They lose games. How do I say that? All four directions. They win games they should and shouldn't win. They lose games they should and shouldn't lose. Right. And it's what is this team going to be? Now they're at Jacksonville. Potentially Trevor Lawrence is back. They're 7-5. They're sitting at the top of that division. They're going into a bye after this Jacksonville game. And then the stretch run's not easy. It's not easy. Dolphins, Chiefs, Ravens. And then they finish up with the Titans for a layup. They need to beat Jacksonville. They need to beat Tennessee at the end. That's 9. That means you have to win at least one of those middle 3 games with Miami, Kansas City, and Baltimore to get any type of advantage in the playoffs. You probably win that division with 9 wins. But I just think the overall talent in Houston, and when they do it right, and they like, I know the Cowboys aren't good and the Colts aren't good and stuff, but when they do it right and it looks good on the screen, it's a good football team, but it's just not a great football team. And that's the problem is I think that all these teams, I feel the same way about Tampa. I'd love to see more consistency in the running game. I'd love to see, I just don't know if they have enough. Without Godwin, I'm worried. And honestly, like, you look at Seattle and what Seattle just do, they won a little bit of a rock fight against Arizona. They had a pick 6 and a Jackson Smith and Jigba touchdown. It's like, I kind of like think Geno's fine and can play consistent enough. And I think the defense is good enough, talented enough on the back end. And the weaponry, like Jackson Smith and Jigba, kind of unlocks a little bit of something. So I think it's just a mega minutia, kind of, for me, from probably, like I said, Seattle, where I have them at 10, all the way through this whole damn thing at the bottom.
And I will say, my ranking this week on Houston might be a bit harsh. They look good again this weekend. They could probably get above the NFC West tier for me. It just feels like that they're not ready. And when you're not ready, you just kind of become a total fraud. Kind of how I see it. So I maybe you're right. Maybe I'm being a little too harsh on that. But as far as the AFC West teams in this tier, they're overachieving in a way that I think is sustainable long term. Mm-hmm. Meaning, I don't think they're just getting lucky. I don't think that their stats are just inflated. I think they have good head coaches who got their quarterback and they're building something the right way. They good offensive lines, good conservative offensive schemes that they're opening up when they have to. And yeah, the Chargers lost on Monday Night Football to the Ravens at home, but the Ravens should be in the Detroit tier, right? The Ravens should be in Detroit tier. Mm-hmm. The loss against the Raiders was inexplicable. The loss, in the division has been wonky. They keep dropping games that they shouldn't drop, but when they look good, they look like the best team in the league. This should be a Detroit-Baltimore tier 1 situation. So I'm not writing off the loss for the Chargers. I just think it's as expected. That just was an expected loss there on Monday Night Football. And they were in the game. They were in the game.
It's interesting, though, because we both moved them up without talking, without looking at each other's numbers. You moved them up 2 spots. I moved them up 2 spots. You moved them up to 10. I moved them up to 11. And they lost on Monday Night Football at home. Mm-hmm. And I think it just says enough about the Chargers in us doing that. Again, this is a team that I'm looking at the wrong schedule here. This is a team that reeled off 4 straight in games they should have won after a 2-point loss to the Cardinals that could have given them 6 straight wins coming out of the bye before that Baltimore loss. Now the next couple games at Falcons, at Kansas City. It's a good bounce back spot at Atlanta. But the team I want to talk about, Matty, I brought it up a minute ago with Bo Nix. What the hell are we doing with the Denver Broncos? Because the Broncos bumped themselves all the way up. I mean, we both had them, I wouldn't say low, but like relatively, they were in the still in it tier last week, but I think it was their first week. No, first week in. Yeah. Because they were in the outside looking in, hanging around tier. They were on the bottom rung. It was Chicago and Denver at the bottom rung. And then Denver, boom, 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 boom. And now we got them all the way up to top 9. Mm-hmm. Both of us have them ranked 9th overall. Bo Nix on a complete tear right now. I guess my question is, what do we do? They have 2 losses over the last 6 weeks, both against on the road, Ravens, Chiefs, back-to-back. Caught the Ravens at the wrong time. We knew that. Are the Ravens? I mean, you got them in the still in it tier, or not the Ravens. The Broncos, they're in the still in it tier. Are the Broncos real enough now? I remember talking about it like after the Panther game and the Saints game, like early on when they're beating these bad teams, like, oh yeah, this team's probably a year away. Probably they're gonna be fine about a year away. Get another good draft cycle in here. Get Bo Nix another year in the system with Sean Payton. Get another receiver in here. But it's like this team looks like it's like ready to just go. Like it's the schedule's not difficult in the way out. They can win 10 games. This guy can win Rookie of the Year, and they're doing it with Devon Vele and just a combination of whatever they want on a weekly basis in the backfield. They cut Greg Dulcich, who's was the starting tight end for certain weeks. Now it's gonna be like Lucas Krull and Adam Troutman. Like they're doing it weird, but man, do I like it. Man, do I like it.
Getting the job done, brother. I mean, they're getting the job done, and they're putting together a team. And the hurdle rankings, this is why we do this every week. It's because we put our own flavor on it. It's not as cut and dry as wins and losses, box score, scavenging, whatnot. We put our own projections on. We put our own takes on this rankings. And the reason why I'm so in on the Broncos, and if if you feel the same way, I'd love to hear it. If out of all these teams, would it shock you to see the Broncos beat the Bills in the playoffs? Would it shock you to see the Broncos upset the Chiefs in the playoffs or the Ravens? For me, it would be an upset, but it wouldn't shock me. Sean Payton has put together a good, well-run squad, a team. They're playing within themselves, and they can open things up. I mean, Courtland Sutton looks like prime slant boy Michael Thomas when Michael Thomas had his best seasons. He's playing unreal, and it's a revolving, rotating cast after Sutton, whether it's Vele or Troy Franklin or Marvin Mims now, or like you said, any one of the three running backs. This week, it was a McLaughlin week. None of them really did anything, but McLaughlin looked the most effective, and then Estime was on the field at the end of the game. They've built it in the way that they won't lose the game. Other teams might beat them because they're better, but they're not going to lose the game. And for me, that always will get the benefit of the doubt. That's why the Chargers and the Broncos are inside my top 10, regardless of wins or losses. And they'll probably stay ahead of the NFC West regardless, because that division will keep jockeying around. And like I said, Houston or Atlanta, maybe Atlanta flip-flops with Buccaneers. Maybe Houston gets back in it. But I'm going to keep these guys in it because I don't think they're frauds. And I think that's really, for me, what's important. They're not frauds at this stage of their program's development.
And they got the guy at the quarterback. All right. Number 8, Green Bay stays the same as last week. Number 7, Minnesota stays the same as last week. And then we jump into the Super Bowl contender tier. One adjustment here. All right. So everybody knows Kansas City's 2, same as last week. Buffalo 3, same as last week. The change came right here at number 4. Last week was the Pittsburgh Steelers, followed by the Baltimore Ravens and the Philadelphia Eagles. The Pittsburgh Steelers, of course, beat Baltimore. Pittsburgh did drop to Cleveland this past week. Philadelphia with a mega win against the Rams. Philly jumps both teams up to number 4 overall. Matty has them 4. I have them 3. Last week it was 6 and 5. So we both jumped them up 2 spots. So it goes 2 Kansas City, 3 Buffalo, 4 Philly, 5 Pitt, 6 Baltimore. One question for this whole tier, Matty. Philadelphia, they got enough gas on offense to withstand the little hiccups and question marks we'll have on defense throughout the rest of the season continuing.
Yeah. Baltimore is built to succeed. For me, the reason why they're 6 is why haven't they just been the AFC Detroit Lions?
Yeah.
They should have been. The losses look so confusing to me because the wins have been so dominant. And then that home win against Denver at the time looked like a superior team pushing down the little brother. I just think it looks like a good win now, doesn't it? Doesn't it just look like a good win? And the win Monday night against the Chargers, again, just ends up being a good win. It's a good team. For me, the way this is, I don't see any one of these 5 teams falling out of the Super Bowl contender rest of season. Maybe others jump into it, but I don't see any of them falling out completely, because what these teams have proven to me, all 5, is that when the lights is on, when it's time to perform in the playoffs, any of these teams can get some wins. Any of these teams can make runs. They have the quarterback. They have the team. And yes, I did say they have the quarterback because Russ works for the Steelers. I know they lost on Monday night, but you know what? The horse prepares for battle, but the Lord gets the what do you say? That was just Jameis has a bar every week. The horse prepares for war, but the winds come from the Lord. Wasn't that it? Something like that.
I don't know.
He's amazing. He's amazing.
He's one of a kind. That's what he is.
Yeah, I mean, Pickens versus Watson was just an absolute battle of characters on that Thursday night. But still, another good team, good coaching, good offense, great defense, and an offensive line that will get better. We don't bring this up enough, how young that Steelers offensive line is, and they still don't even have their first-round pick. They're not getting them back, so it's not like Troy Fautano was coming through that door to solidify that offensive line. But, Chase McCormick, rookie, Frazier, rookie, and he's nasty. Shocker. The all-state wrestler center is awesome at football. Shocker. But, yeah, I think their offensive line, the continuity, everything will get better on that offensive line. And then, of course, they got the two-headed dragon now. Warren is healthy, and you're seeing it be a massive difference in how they can move the ball. Yes, they lost to the Browns. Divisional game, the black and blue division. You kind of have to discount those losses. I'm sorry, because they're going to happen in that division more than any other division. So I like these 5 teams. I like these guys to stay in the Super Bowl contender tier. But I will say this, the team in this tier that has impressed me the most is the Eagles. They're not throwing the ball much. They're 32nd in pass attempts, and they're winning on the ground with Saquon. And then Jalen Hurts he's been surgical. A.J. Brown's been nasty. And, yeah, no Devontae Smith, no problem. We're still going to kick the shit out of the Rams on Sunday Night Football on the road in La La Land. I think they're built to win. They got a lot of good young talent that's still getting better. Just think of their draft on defense over the last 2 years. It's going to go down as potentially a 2-year stretch that's going to wow people throughout the rest of the next decade when you think of all the talent that they brought on that defense and how they're all going to get into their primes at the same time. I love what the Eagles are doing. I love what Howie Roseman is doing. It's really going to come down because Nick Sirianni fuck it up? That, to me, will be the difference with the Eagles because I think talent-wise, their roster is as good as the Lions, to be quite honest.
I know a lot of people want to see Buffalo, Kansas City for the 800th time, but I would love to see Pittsburgh, Baltimore, AFC Championship, Eagles, Lions, NFC Championship. That would make me unholy happy to watch that in a late January. Probably going to be in. I know the Eagles are probably going to be in Detroit, but I would just love to see both of those games. I honestly wish they were both in Pennsylvania. I wish one was in Pittsburgh, one was in Philly, both outside. I wish it was snowing.
Philly could get the 1 seed. They're only a game behind. They can get the 1 seed.
We'll see if those Bears can upset the Lions this week. But they're not going to upset them in these rankings because the Detroit Football Motor City Kitties 24-6 domination of a win over the Indianapolis Colts. They spite Alex Dunlap's Matt Gay 6.5 kicking point thing he took for the Colts. The one of 2 losses on the week, Matty. We went 13-2. Matt Gay screwed us over with this damn 6-point thing. Anyway, Detroit, nothing needs to be said. A league of their own. All right, we got one more big segment coming up here for Dynasty, but we got a ton of people in the chat, Matty. A ton. Midget Unicorn. I just read that. I was going to enunciate that a little bit. And I was like, Midget Unicorn. Shout out to you, brother. Chef TPTB, Ruckus, what's up in the building? Breezy, what's going on, everybody in the building? We got a couple of questions to start up. You want to pop these up right now?
Let's do it.
All right. Breezy says, just traded JSN 2 2025 firsts, not seconds, 2 2025 firsts, a 2026 second, and Deshaun Watson for Jamar Chase, Chuba Hubbard, Dalton Kincaid, and a 2026 second. So we'll just call the seconds.
That's a wash, obviously.
2 2025 firsts, Watson, JSN. I kind of want to call Watson and Chuba a little bit of a wash for themselves. I know Chuba, you're probably going to get a little bit more out of Watson for him, but it's a quarterback. So a first for Kincaid and then JSN and a first for Jamar. Kind of, maybe. Is that kind of how I'm looking at this, maybe?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I I would love this if the running back 2 you're getting back was someone. I don't want to say more projectable, but 2 weeks from now, if Jonathan Brooks has got a 45% snap share, would we be that shocked? It just feels like now it's so jarring. He got 5 snaps last week in his debut, but Chuba is being traded for right now like a game changer. And I don't love that for you, Breezy. And I think JSN in 2 first rounds, for me, it's too much for Chase. It's too much. So I think you might have given up a little bit too much. I understand, though, sometimes you have to pay the pony to get the ride. You got to make sure that you're the best team going into the playoffs, and maybe Jamar Chase puts you over the top there. So I get the intoxication of doing it, but I think in a value vacuum, I'd rather have JSN in the 225 firsts than Jamar. Because, we might be talking in after you're done with your rookie draft, it might be JSN, Omarion Hampton, and, another running back or whatever it is. It could end up just being a lot that you've given up. And I love JSN. So I think it's a slight overpay, but I understand the idea of bringing in Jamar Chase for the playoff run. I get it. But if you're not contending, I don't like this for you, buddy.
I kind of agree. I like the JSN side. I've liked him up in the top 10 of the Dynasty rankings regardless. You get 225 first for it. Jamar Chase is tough. I mean, I think we talked about last week. He's the best piece in fantasy right now, arguably. It's a good spot to be in, though. I like the JSN side. Ruckus says, better stash Roshan with his, what's that now, 5 rushing touchdowns on the season?
Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby.
Or Ray Davis, 25 and a half years old, Ray Davis.
For me, I think the better stash is Ray Davis for this season. Mm-hmm. We've seen Ray Davis in this one spot where he didn't have James Cook go banana land. Roshan hasn't had that chance quite yet. But I think that we've also seen DeAndre Swift be quiet as the lead back, where I think that would be the case for Roshan if he was the lead back. James Cook's been freaking awesome in the passing game. They use him like a ton. And I think Ray Davis would go into a role that would be, quote unquote, a league winner. So I think for this year, better stats for me is Ray Davis.
All right, there it is. Let's go into the final segment of the evening, presented by nothing, because we don't have a sponsor. If you want to be a sponsor, email us.
Yeah.
Or DM us at Matty Kiwoom, at Cody Carpentier on X.
So we're gonna play a little pick'em. We're gonna pit a few players or 2 players against each other in Dynasty. This isn't seasonal. This is Dynasty value. We're going to start here with a pair of running backs. Saquon Barkley versus Bijan Robinson. Who would you rather have in Dynasty? Who has the higher value in Dynasty right now?
Who has the higher value? I think, with how Saquon's been, 500 all-purpose yards or 500 yards from scrimmage the last 2 games, and how he's looked all season, potentially coming down the pipes of a MVP award, I think he'd be hard-pressed to see the community probably. And I, again, as someone who does literally not consume anything from the community, I shouldn't say anything. I consume a little bit from the community as far as like their thoughts on guys, but generally just kind of keep my nose on my own thing. I would assume that the Saquon juice has gotten back up there. Just like it did with McCaffrey, right? McCaffrey never really lost the juice for a lot of people. Some of us moved him down as the age went. Some of us were like a little bit worried. A lot of people kept Christian McCaffrey as like top of the food chain, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's probably where people have Saquon. They're like, well, this is a new age Saquon. We'll see how long this lasts in Philly. Probably top 3 dynasty running back. Personally, I'm going to take Bijan. I'm just going to hold the talent. I love Bijan, but I do think it's probably really close. I'll take Bijan.
Yeah, Barkley's played at a level that's definitely made it close, but I'm still going Bijan because Bijan's the Saquon Barkley year that he's having this year is still absolutely on the table for Bijan over the next 3 years. Not every single year, but one of these next 3 years. And he's, again, having a great sophomore season. Had what some people thought was a bit low-key rookie season, but he was still very good, despite what Arthur Smith was doing in not using him. I'm going to take Bijan because I still think that I think this is Saquon Barkley's best season. I don't think we see another one like it where Bijan has a chance to do this and then do it maybe another time. Kind of like what we saw with Christian McCaffrey, where McCaffrey was able to do it multiple times. We're seeing Barkley do it once, but we're now seeing him do it for the first time in his second contract on his second team. So for me, it's still Bijan, but man, it's gotten
Feels
very
close.
close. It's gotten very close. I mean, you just can't keep seeing the weekly 40-point games from a running back and just ignore it. It's fucking impossible.
We should have saw it coming. We really should have just saw it coming, to be honest with you. Like
We did.
hindsight's hindsight, but I mean, in that offense, I mean, healthy Saquon.
No, but we're both Bijan over Barkley in terms of dynasty value. Now let's move on to some tight ends here. Brock Bowers versus Trey McBride in dynasty.
Yeah, this one's not close anymore. Brock Bowers is by himself. And I know this may be, for some people, maybe overreaction, but the guy's breaking every record set upon him, and he's doing it in just ridiculous fashion on a weekly basis. I can't wait till he gets a shooters. Wait till he gets a quarterback in Las Vegas and potentially a better coach to call some plays. We'll see what happens here, but Brock Bowers should just continue this thing right here. And he, the thing is, dude, which we talked about, he's literally a wide receiver playing the position, it's Cooper Kupp playing tight end, period. Like, that's what it is.
Yeah. I'm going to go Bowers too. Bowers is my dynasty tight end 1, but Trey McBride's moving to my dynasty tight end 2. We're seeing him get double-digit target games. Last week he went berserk with all, and he doesn't have a touchdown on the season, and he's been an absolute beast in fantasy. But when you look at the warp tool, you look at the warp graphs, which I highly recommend you do at South Harmon FF, go to warp.life, use that warp tool. You'll see that Brock Bowers makes a fucking difference. Brock Bowers is a difference maker. Brock Bowers is, like you said, the wide receiver playing tight end. And whereas I see the Raiders desperately needing to get quarterbacks, offensive linemen, defensive pieces, I think they're less likely to invest in a big-time wide receiver, where the Cardinals have Marvin Harrison Jr. and are in a position where they could draft a second-round wide receiver to bring in with Michael Wilson. So I think that the target distribution for Bowers will always, funnel Bowers, whereas the Cardinals, some weeks it's going to be Marv, some weeks it could be someone else. Kyler could run the ball. I don't know if it's going to be week in, week out like we see. But again, this is the difference of tight end 1 and tight end 2 for me.
It's what it is. Tight end 1, tight end 2. I think they could, Vegas could bring somebody in, but we're here. Welcome to the club. Welcome to the new era of tight end, I should say. Not welcome to the club, but welcome to the new era of tight end. Brock and McBride. And everybody else just kind of funnels in behind.
This next one's spicy. A-Rich or Jaden Daniels in Dynasty?
Do we have to have this conversation right now?
I think it needs to be had. I think we both are on the same side. I think South Harmon is on the same side. But this is the conversation. This is what we're having now.
It's Jaden by a few notches. So I got him. The way my rankings are set up, it's very non-number based by position. So I got him at QB 6. And I still have Richardson at 12 or 13. 13. So I'm on Daniels, and literally the only thing holding, like, I didn't over adjust. I didn't even really over adjust on Richardson when he was benched. I just kind of was like, this guy hasn't played enough games. He's going to get another chance. I didn't think he was going to come back and have his best career game. I also didn't think he was going to have a good game against Detroit. So he really hasn't done a lot to, like, bounce back or wreck himself. Like, I just kind of waiting in the cut right now. I think the running stuff's going to wear off, where he's just not going to be able to do it as much because he just takes too much damage. Daniels, I mean, you're seeing a little bit of the shine wear off, but the guy's still an elite arm talent. I think he's still an elite rusher. We didn't think Washington was going to be great to begin with. They're in a division with Philly, who's really tough. The Giants, as bad as they are, still pretty good defense. The Cowboys, as bad as they are, still a lot of talent. Like, it's still a tough division to win. And I think Washington's making a very good case to just pull in more free agents next year, pull in more weaponry, get a good draft, et cetera, build around this kid. and have a future. I feel better about Jaden as a passer, as a quarterback, as a rusher, as a talent, and as an organization than I do about Richardson. But I still like Richardson, so I'm gonna take Daniels.
I'm taking Daniels for everything you just stated. I'll also say this, if you could swap their weapons,
Oh yeah.
Jaden would go berserk with
Oh
those
my.
weapons. With Pittman and Downs and Pierce and A.D. Mitchell and Jonathan Taylor, J-Day would be berserk
That
with
O-line.
those weapons. Oh my God. I would fiend for that because I know they overachieved, so we think that this is the end game for the Commanders. They're just getting started. Their offensive line is going to get more talent over the next 2 or 3 years. There's going to be more wide receivers brought in. They're going to even get better running backs because we love B-Rob and Eckler as the combo for fantasy. But, I mean, could you see them going pretty high on running? I can't. I can see the Commanders going pretty high. Ruckus is bringing the heat. I don't think he's Trey Lance because Trey Lance must suck something awful. The fact that Cooper Rush in his squirt gun arm keeps losing. I mean, how bad must Trey Lance fucking suck during the week?
Maybe PJ Fleck knew when he offered him to play safety.
There's what we need is they need to send Zimmer to the podium to repeat what he said about Kellen Mond and just put the nail in the coffin about Trey Lance. Why isn't Trey Lance playing? Because I see him every day in practice. Is what that's what Mike McCarthy has to say about Trey Lance, because that shit it's dead. I don't think Richardson's dead. I think there's still room for some improvement. I know historically we haven't seen it much, but this is a guy that would still immense athleticism. We'll see where it goes.
All love, Ruck. All love.
Yeah, of course. Next guy we're going to talk about it. Two running backs again. Again, another bet. I think the traditional battle would be Bijan versus Brees, but I wanted to switch it up because I think the conversations kind of shift as the season's gone on. Devon Achane's been an absolute murderer. He's been healthy, which has shocked me. It's the reason why all my rookie drafts went to shit, because I was taking the Corums and I was taking the Wrights and I was taking the Bensons when I should have been taking Tracy and Irving, right? I fucked up there. It is what it is. Now Devon Achane, Brees Hall, who would you rather have in Dynasty?
I still have to roll with Hall. I know there's going to be a new regime in here. I like Achane, but again, you're just not going to get me overweight on 190-pound, 185-pound running back, even if he has CJ2K abilities. He's utilizing the target and reception area. You're not going to get me overweight on a guy like that when I have a Brees Hall, who I think right now is pound for pound the best runner, the best rusher, the best running back in football. Yes, better than Jonathan Taylor. I think he's the pure best running back, not all-purpose back like a Saquon or a Bijan or a Gibbs, but I think is the best pure back. I think is still Brees Hall. And I do think that they're going to continue to build this thing. The Jets are the Jets, but I do still think I'm going to ride with Brees Hall, even though you're getting these mega hammers out of Devon Achane. You're gonna get bigger ones. You're gonna get bigger ones, and it's gonna suck. But it's not gonna suck if you have him.
I'm gonna take Achane in this, and it pains me because I hate taking the guy who could be hurt.
Yeah.
But when I think about it and I sit on it, I really, 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 really think about these two running backs. One guy has the ACL tear, one doesn't. So does that mean he's going to get it eventually or not? I don't know. But why I'm taking Achane is I know what I'm going to get in 2025. I don't know what I'm going to get out of Brees Hall in 25. Theoretically, it'd be good, but what if they hire Pete Carroll? Pete Carroll drafted Zach Charbonnet when he had Kenneth Walker. He might do that in this running back class. He might go back to the Braylon Allen type stuff. So for me, I don't know. It's a bit. It makes me a bit nervous for here to go. There's one more battle that we're gonna do today. One more. We did one QB battle. We got to end here. This is another one. Who would you rather have in Dynasty? Caleb Williams or CJ Stroud? We're gonna end here because this is the banger.
I think I'm still riding Caleb. I know Stroud's came down to earth a bit. Not doing that. Not doing that.
See, Ruckus, I got your back, baby. I got a back for you. I got you, Ruckus. Got
Not
you, Ruckus.
doing that. I came into the season with Stroud as QB1. I haven't taken him off. Caleb is still QB6 for me, which is in a good, fine spot right behind Jaden Daniels. You're not going to get me off of Stroud this easy. When I think he's a better, Burrow-esque type of thing. Like, I think that's Burrow is like the perfect quarterback. I just don't love his mobility a little bit. I like Stroud's mobility a little bit more. I like Stroud overall. Things happen. I get it. Seems like he's come down to earth. I don't love that. I don't really know what to make of it. Everything's around him. I'm not going to come off this easy, though. 2 pocket passers that even Caleb – sorry, I was talking about Burrow and CJ Stroud, but as 2 pocket passers. But Caleb, like – I think what's going to do it for me, and I'm just going to say I can't bring Caleb up to that tier, or bring him down. Whatever the hell you want to talk about. Bring Stroud down, bring Caleb up. I can't do it because I don't trust Chicago at all.
That's
period.
fair.
Like Keenan has a good game. Roma Dunze has a good game. DJ Moore has a good game. Caleb is fine. And it's like, what am I going to get out of this? Am I ever going to get, high end rushing? Am I even going to get Kyler out of this? I don't even know if I'm going to get Kyler out of this. And I love Kyler right now, but I just got to, I haven't seen enough to put Caleb up into that conversation yet.
I'm going Caleb. And for me, I don't think it's close. I just think I think Caleb's just, he has more in his bag than CJ Stroud does. And if you gave Caleb Bobby Slowick and you gave him a better chance to throw the ball, I mean, we've seen what Thomas Brown has been able to do for him. And basically just don't give him a cockamamie offense. That's all he needed to do. The throw he made to DeAndre Swift gets made by 2 other quarterbacks in the league, where CJ Stroud's accuracy comes from the pocket, comes from timing, comes from your traditional sense. Caleb has that, but Caleb also has the ability to make plays that I don't think CJ Stroud does. I just don't think he does. And when we were talking about the onboarding for Caleb, and we talked about it so highly, we forgot the most important thing, fucking coaching. And that's made a huge difference. But the wows that I've seen from Caleb are big enough for me I have not lost faith in Caleb one bit from when he was drafted as the 101, 102 in rookie drafts for Superflex. Stroud, I haven't lost faith in him. I don't think he falls, but I think what we saw last year, I think is kind of his ceiling. Is what I think. I think his ceiling is QB7 in a good QB year, QB5 in a iffy QB year, whereas Caleb's ceiling is Jalen Hurts. It's QB1 for multiple years, and that's for me the tiebreaker.
That's fair. That's fair if they get it right.
If they get it right, and it's the Bears, they might not. But we always get it right, baby. We always get it right. Here.
The Hurdle. Click that like button, click subscribe, tune in, tap in. It ain't 8 o'clock. It's almost 8 o'clock. Generally, when we go live, we're live at 7. We appreciate you. We love you. Have a happy Thanksgiving at Matty Kiwoom on X, at Cody Carpentier on X. We appreciate you. We love you. Tap in, southharmon.com, patreon.com/South Harmon FF. All things South Harmon. Tap the fuck in. Warp, go get the warp tool right now. Yesterday, today, tomorrow, yesterday, now, today. Yes, you go get it. You want to win your championship? Do it now. We appreciate you. We love you. And we'll see you next time.
Happy Thanksgiving. Peace.